Welcome to the Chalk Lab. This is the last lab before the biggest lab of the year, where you get to practice filtering and doing percent composition. And we want you to make sure you take a note of this, write on your lab that the sodium carbonate looks like powder and its supply jar has a blue spoon. Do that right now, please. It's the calcium chloride that looks like Dippin' Dots. They're not, though. Don't eat them. The calcium chloride dihydrate supply jar has a transparent, colorless spoon. You can also make note of my calculations here to derive the masses of each that you need to make your solutions. After you've weighed out your samples, make sure each beaker has 50.0 milliliters of water. You just use your tap water and add that to each of the 150 milliliter beakers that you have. So you've got 50 milliliters of water in each. This is going to allow us to make a 0.400 molar solution of each of the salts. Add your salts to the beakers and then stir to make your solutions. You're not going to have much time in this lab, so notice I'm using the rubber spatula or the rubber police person, the glass end, to stir one of my batches, one of my solutions, and I'm using the glass stirring rod to stir the other one. So the important thing here today is to avoid contamination. Never take your stirring rod from one of the beakers and put it in the other beaker. Make sure if you have only one stir bar, rinse it in your sink before you transfer it to another sample. This takes some pretty rapid stirring. Be vigorous with the stirring. It took me a couple minutes of stirring to get to this transparent solution state for both of my solutions. Recall that it's another filtering lab, so take your filter paper, fold it, write your name on it, weigh it before it gets wet, or else it's a tragedy. You can't go back from there, you gotta start over. One of your solutions might be a little cloudy and the other one might be clear. Add the cloudy one to the clear one and add it just a little bit at a time and watch what's going on as the chalk forms. It's kind of cool. We did this as a demonstration earlier in the year. Once you've added the contents of both of your beakers into one of your beakers, this one needs to be cleaned in your sink. You're going to need the filtrate that accumulates in this beaker after filtering. So what I recommend is putting your filter in, getting it wet, letting that water drain through, collect that, take your chalky solution, pour that into your filter. This is going to take a long time. This is going to probably be the longest step in the whole lab, just filtering the chalk. And so the thing you need to do is just be super patient and use your deionized squirt bottle water to make sure you get every last drop of your chalky solution into that filter. With the use of my squirt bottle, I was able to get every last drop of chalky solution out of this beaker. It should be totally clean. Everything is now in the filter paper filtering. And you just got to wait for this to filter, and you need to collect and keep all of this filtrate. It's really important that the filtrate be measured very precisely in the next step. I'll show you how. Don't wait for your sample to filter to prepare your evaporating dish. You're going to take 10% of this filtrate and pour it into this evaporating dish. You're going to heat the evaporating dish up and evaporate the water that's in the evaporating dish. leaving behind the sodium chloride crystals that are dissolved currently in that filtrate. Since it's only 10%, you'll take the mass of the sodium chloride crystals, multiply that by 10, and have the total mass of sodium chloride that came through the filter. Then you can do some stoichiometry with the sodium chloride. But remember, it's porcelain, and porcelain is porous, and there's water in there, and we need to lighten it up by drying it out. And that's why the Bunsen burner's out. Heat it up for a couple minutes, let it cool, and then bring it over to your scale. That's why the cardboard's out. Don't burn the cardboard. Make sure you zero the scale before you put it on there. Okay, then you'll add the 10% of your solution to it and evaporate in the evaporating dish. I've jumped a couple minutes ahead. I've grabbed my crucible tongs. I'm going to gently grab the side of the evaporating dish, like this, and set it down carefully on my bench top to let it cool for a couple minutes so I don't burn the cardboard. I know you guys know how to do this. You've done this so many times already this year. The scale is zeroed, the cardboard's on there, there's nothing in here. We're just trying to get the value of the mass of just the evaporating dish. Make sure you do that before you put your 10% of your solution into the evaporating dish. Now I can jump to the filter paper, which has all of my chalk in it. I've got it folded over. I'm going to take that over to the drying oven right now and move on to the next step. This is all of my filtrate, and I need to measure that, but I have over 100 mils, and I only have a 100 milliliter beaker, or a graduated cylinder. Cool thing is, you don't need to save all of this. So let's get a measurement. We don't want to measure with the beaker, it's not precise enough. That was pretty cool. 100.0 milliliters there. Then dump that out. And, well, hold on. Because if we have 120, we're going to need 12. Do we have enough left over? If you don't think you're going to have enough of your filtrate left over to have 10% remaining, then one solution is to pour, let's say 50, and then pour that down the drain, and then pour the rest in. Add those volumes together, you'll have your total. Multiply that by 0.1, and you'll have your 10%. All right, so I'm doing a do-over. All of my filtrate's back in my beaker. Okay, and there's 50.0 milliliters. I'm going to pour that down the drain because it's just sodium chloride. That's high concentration in the ocean already. 50.0 plus 62.0. So I have 112.0 total milliliters, which means I need to save 12 milliliters of this and put it into my evaporating dish. That's why we've given you the 10 milliliter graduated cylinder. Take 10, pour it into your evaporating dish. Take 2 more, pour that into your evaporating dish, and then evaporate until all of the water is gone. We want you to be really precise with the measuring of the 10%. And so that's why we gave you guys droppers and these little 10 mil graduated cylinders. There's my 12, almost. Just a few more drops. I already put my 10 milliliters into the evaporating dish. And go ahead and evaporate until all of the liquid is gone, and what should be left is sodium chloride crystals. Be careful though not to overcook it, because then the sodium chloride will pop like popcorn and you'll lose its mass to the air. Make sure to keep your flame nice and low. Oh, and as soon as the last bubble of boiling water leaves the evaporating dish, you keep your hand on that Bunsen burner and you pull it away. Let your evaporating dish cool again for just long enough that you don't think it's going to burn the cardboard. And then, of course, zero it first. Find the mass of the evaporating dish plus the sodium chloride, and you have all the data. The last thing left is cleanup. You need to make sure you clean up your beakers, you clean up your graduated cylinders, and you clean your evaporating dish. Yeah, that was hot. So we've put out for you vinegar. And the vinegar is acetic acid, and it will help to dissolve any of the chalk that got left behind on anything. And so especially for these guys and for these guys, give a little spritz of vinegar and then rinse everything in the sink. Call your teacher over to inspect your lab bench before leaving the lab. We'll give you an approval if everything's nice and clean for next period, and good luck with this one. Thank you.